Okay, can anybody hear me? Okay, hello everybody. Okay, I thought what I should do is go back through some old, well, conspiracies or things that have been around for quite a while. One is the idea of Nibiru. And when I first encountered was on this forum called CosmoQuest. It's a forum that was started by Phil Plait, the bad astronomer. Another one was Fraser Kane of University Day, and another one was Dr. Pamela Gay. I think it's still semi-active. It's been around for about 20 years, but they're used. Okay, but there's two categories called against the mainstream and conspiracy theories. And if you're interested in those things, like moon landing, I think there was some 9/11 stuff, but they eventually stopped doing it because it got a little, everybody just didn't like doing it. Plus, another place to go is the International Skeptics Forum. It used to be known as the James Randi Educational Foundation Forum, but it changed ownership, and then James Randi died, and the Education Foundation died. Ended with him. But this place has most of the members have moved on to other things. But there one guy that used to be very active was a guy who was on aircraft carriers in the 70s. There's people who've done a lot of flying. Some people come here to discuss gardening and TV shows and all kinds of things. But we're going to talk about Nibiru, which is a fictional planet that's mythical planet that's supposed to come into the inner solar system every 3,000 years. And about 15 years ago it was very big. There's a guy named Zachary Stitchin who made up a bunch of stuff. He looked at a bunch of Sumerian tablets or Assyrian tablets, one of the Mesopotamian societies, and basically made up this entire story about Nibiru coming into the inner solar system. I think it was all the way back in the 90s. So I remember I was a telescope tour guide, and somebody said they found a planet in the asteroid belt. But this was also the time that they were doing. It was during Hale-Bopp or Hakataki. And during Hale-Bopp, there was one group, the Heaven's Gate cult, who thought behind the comet was a UFO, and they were going to ascend to a higher dimension. That's where we're going to leave that. But somebody said that they found a planet in the asteroid belt, but they didn't. But Nibiru has been around for a while. This is on the Joe Rogan Experience. If anybody knows about Joe Rogan, it's basically Joe Rogan is a guy who used to be a comedian. There was a show called News Radio, which was a sitcom. He played like a conspiracy handyman, a conspiracy-minded handyman. It's kind of more based off his real life. There was a show called Fear Factor. He was the host of that. I don't know if he's fought in the Ultimate Fighting Championships, but I think he's definitely a host. But he also has this podcast, which is one of the biggest podcasts in the world. But he pretty much brings in all these people who say crazy things. This is one of them. Billy Carson. I've never really heard much about Billy Carson before, but we'll listen to certain segments. I watched part of it earlier, so I know what's going to be said. So I can, and I've got a few thoughts about what they were talking about. This will be probably a short stream, so. The Anunnaki are, I think there's only mentioned in the book of Enoch. It's a breed of half angels and half humans, or half fallen angels and half humans.
If it's coming every 3,000 years, wouldn't there
Okay, brown dwarfs are stars that have about 8% the mass of the sun. So no, it wouldn't be twice. What is it? Did he say the same mass of the sun, but half the radius? That's not even close. There is a theory called the nemesis theory, or the binary. That there's a binary star that orbits the sun, but nobody's actually found a star that orbits the sun. So that's not accurate.
But the fact that modern science now admits that this object out there that is in orbit our sun for 4,200 years, right? That's Corey Powell, Discovery Magazine.
There's a theoretical planet called Planet X, or some people call it Planet 10, even though Pluto was demoted as a planet, and that was done by the International Astronomical Union. But there is a planet there. I think they found one that's about 700 kilometers, but it doesn't come anywhere close to where he thinks it comes. It comes outside of Neptune's orbit is the closest approach, which is about 40 astronomical units away. So it's not what he thinks it is. The Corey Powell that I found he's a science reporter, and don't think his background is in astronomy. I think it's history of science.
And so, and so what's happening is we are seeing evidence that there is something that's orbiting our sun, and our sun is a binary star system.
I'll let him go for a bit further.
I think that our sun, one sun in the solar system is normal, but because they looked out the space Hubble and now the Webb, they discovered no binary is normal, they were trinary. And so it's like, wait a minute, if binary is normal, start looking for this object that gravitationally should exist.
We've known about binary stars since the 1800s. The first one I think was found was Sirius B, or it was one of the first ones found, and it's a white dwarf around Sirius. Sirius is a star about 8 light years away. We haven't found any evidence of a binary star around the sun, but no, okay, but let him go a little bit. So it wasn't the James Webb or the Hubble that found it. It was found binary stars. We've known they've been around for a long, long time. Okay, what I think he's referred to as that we come from there is a theory called panspermia. This is a theory that life originated outside of Earth. There's some comets and asteroids that they found amino acids on, which are the building blocks of life. And how this came about is our sun's not the first sun, or not the first generation of stars. The first generation of stars were nearly purely hydrogen and helium, and they built the more complicated building blocks. These were very short-lived stars because they were supermassive. And then the next generation stars could have had the elements and could have formed the amino acids. They could have had life on them, and the stars died and killed everything in the system. And these comets were recombined from the materials that were destroyed and distributed in a nebula, and then came back to form the comets and stuff with the amino acids. There are some people who think that other solar systems eject these comets, and the material and the amino acids are spread throughout space that way, like the Atlas that's just passing through, or Maya or Borisov. These kind of comets that have been found that passing through the solar system. One of the main issues about this is can the amino acids survive the impact and going through the atmosphere. So, and the thing about the other planet, about them thinking there's this big planet out there, is because all the Pluto is part of what is called the Kuiper Belt, and a large number of the larger Kuiper Belt objects are kind of orbiting to one side. So they think there has to be a 5 to 10 Earth mass object on the other side. It could be one Earth mass object, or 5 to 10 Earth mass object, or it could be a bunch of objects in the other direction. Terrence Howard is an actor. He was on. Okay, this says this is a year old. He was on before this guy. Terrence made a lot of claims that's not backed by science, and tried to rework mathematics, and was pretty much mocked by a lot of people. So, no, that's not how it works. The material doesn't come from the sun to create planets. The planets in the sun were created by a big nebula that coalesced into the sun and the planets. And the sun actually has over 98% of the 98 or 99% of the mass of the entire solar system in it. We exist in the first, second, and third, and fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is time. About the 11 dimensions, that's what string theory is about, because what string theory thinks is that all particles are basically little tiny strings vibrating, and the different vibrations give you different particles. But some of these dimensions are kind of wrapped around themselves. They're like less than a millimeter or less than an atom wide. But there could be other. There's the multiverse theory, which says there's multiple universes that exist at the same time. We just we just inhabit one of them, and that could be the truth. But getting between the different dimensions is probably impossible, at least with our modern technology. Okay. I've never played No Man's Sky, but basically when you do something like that, you give planets basic parameters, like density and temperature and radius and stuff like that, and you can create a number of planets doing that. So there could be any number of planets. But the thing is the difference between that and life is life has a lot of chemistry to it and it's a very complicated system. Any form of life is a very complicated system. So just because you can create a rough simulation on a computer game, doesn't mean you can create life. And AI at the moment, it is a valuable tool, but it doesn't really have much thinking power on its own. It just learns from models of what humans have done, and adapts it. And quantum computing is more about trying to find a number of solutions and trying to figure out which one is the most likely solution. And it still has a lot of errors in it, so it's far from being able to plug into your computer for a video game. Okay, but what he saw, I don't know what he saw. That's more of a Nick West question. But okay, I hope everybody has a good day, and goodbye, and hopefully somebody watches us. Goodbye.